This is a download from BFM89.9, the business station.
Good morning, I'm Sharad Kutan. Last week, a cyber attack known as the Petya ransom attack began in Ukraine and spread to various parts of Europe and the US. This follows because the devastating WannaCry ransomware attack in May also this year, which infected hundreds of thousands of computers over 150 countries, including Malaysia. On the line is Krishna of AKATI Consulting, a security-focused consulting firm specializing in information security. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to begin with the first question, which is there a link between this attack in Ukraine, the Petya ransomware attack, and the May WannaCry ransomware attack?
Good morning, Sharad. Well, yes. Let's break down the two, the WannaCry that happened on May 12th as well as the Petya-like attack that happened on June 27th. In terms of similarities, of course, both are serious grievance-causing ransomwares. Lots of people cried. But then again, both of them exploited almost the same vulnerability. The techies call this vulnerability as CVE 2017-0144, or for the rest of us, it's an exploit or a loophole within Windows operating system, which was originally discovered by the NSA and leaked out by a hacking group back in April. So in terms of similarities, there is a link in that sense. But in terms of actors or threat actors, investigators are still trying to find any link between the two, but they're yet to find.
Sorry, I just want to ask you if there is now a trend. Are we looking to regular cyber attacks of a global nature following these two particular attacks?
Yes, sure. I think you're going to see more of those. Because the proliferation of mobile devices are a global symptom. Generally the side effects of that, which is cybercrime, or these kinds of cyber attacks, are also now a global syndrome.
So what can, before we get into the question of what can be done to protect us, if we already know that there is this loophole, I'm in my kind of untutored mind thinking, well, why can't we just close the hole?
Well, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? Let's look at this war that we're fighting, right? For the bad guy, all he needs is one little variable within a function, within a source code. For the good guy, for example, Microsoft, he's got at least a couple of 100 million lines of code to protect. So that's the kind of war that we're playing in every single application, every single network, and every single organization. So we are going to have these threats coming in. Sad to say, a lot of our approaches are more reactive rather than proactive, although they are proactive approaches. But a lot of people look at, we have this, the Tida upper attitude. Nothing's wrong. So, security seems to be a pain all the time. It's an extra cost. So, why bother?
Okay, I understand in the Petya attack, some really big firms, the shipping firm Maersk was also had shut down some port facilities and such. But can we focus on the Petya attack because, as I understand, some observers are suggesting that this was an act of sabotage rather than kind of pure ransom collecting attack. And I want to know if you can tell us what the distinction is. We know, of course, that Ukraine is involved now in a war with Russia, and Russia, there have been quite a number of cyber attacks emanating from Russia. So, but that aside, how do we make a distinction between an attack which is sabotage in intention as opposed to money-making in objective?
Yeah, so if you look at it, in this particular Petya incident, whether it was money or mayhem or just delivering a political message, that is a big question for a lot of investigators. Now, for us, for example, when we saw the incident and when our global response team, broke it out, the funny thing is, imagine this. Imagine if I'm a thief and I spend a lot of time developing this sophisticated ransomware, but then I blundered on the most important part of it, which is the actual cash out. Most of these ransomwares out there They spend a lot of time and focus, and they use anonymous encrypting protocols like Tor, for example, for the victim to communicate back with them so that they can send their Bitcoin to that address, and then they can give a notice that they've paid. And every individual victim has a unique ID. So that way I would know as an attacker, all right, Brittany has paid, Sarah has not. But in this particular Petya incident, we didn't see that. All we saw was just an email address, and it was just plain text in that code. And as soon as the hosting provider of that email address blocked it, that was the end of it. There's no way he can cash out of it. That was it, and victims can't do anything about it. That's the end of the attack. So the focus was more on creating as much as damage as possible rather than actually cashing out. Especially when you look at other ransomwares, they've cashed out, like CryptoWall has actually cashed out up to $18 million for the criminals. So in this particular Petya, I think cashing out was not one of their aims at all.
Now, I also just kind of surveying what's in the media, it's also a suggestion that with many people, the simple organizations, the simple solution would be to have backups of your files. And so when your computer system is locked down, you actually have the entire system backed up and so then you don't have to pay the ransom to unlock your system. This perhaps is slightly more difficult if the information in your system is something you don't want shared, for instance, or it's private in nature, and that could be also a reason for paying up, couldn't it? But what guarantees do you have in this whole setup that one, that if you do pay, your payment will be honored, and then two, that they won't in fact use that information that they're now in possession of for some other means?
The sad story is, Sharad, there is absolute no guarantee on that. In fact, there's a high risk on that. Being a criminal, if they would want to reuse that data, they could. And a lot of times, there are many victims who've had paid the ransom and not get the files. So that's also there. But having said that, I do know that a lot of victims have paid in other ransom attacks where the primary motive was purely money, right? So for the attacker was, you paid, good, here's the unlock code and you've got your files back, right? So whether or not we recommend victims to pay, no. Because first of all, it's supporting the criminals, right? So you're empowering the criminals more and more. As soon as they know that this is a big business opportunity, they're motivated to keep on doing this in different variants.
So ultimately, who should be responsible? I mean, I know we go back to individual responsibility, the responsibility of corporates and organizations to protect themselves. Does government have a role? Do internet service providers have a role in this story of security?
Yes. I think in terms of the landscape, we've got the enterprises, we've got the SMEs, and then we've got the government, right? From a government perspective, I think there's still a lot more that can be done, especially on the area of awareness. And when I mention awareness, awareness is not just posters, because posters don't work anymore. There needs to be more awareness on the general public on what they should and should not do. From an ISP role, they could also do this. But from an enterprise and an SME perspective, tackling the SME perspective, there are many SMEs who were not aware of this attack till the day they start seeing files locked up. So that's a scary thing. There needs to be more awareness on that and on simple things exactly like how you mentioned. If I have an offline backup, and I stress the keyword offline, then I'm not worried of doomsday. If my files are locked up, I'll wipe them off and reload them with my backup. So I don't have to be worried. But when it comes to enterprises, the game gets a little bit ugly, Sharad, because what I've seen in the Malaysian enterprises specifically is there are a lot of Tai Chi.
What do you mean? Sorry, could you explain what you mean by Tai Chi?
So, for example, if I'm in the security department, I'll blame it on the infrastructure and say, you know what, guys, this is your job. Infrastructure will blame it on, say, audit, and audit will blame it on risk. So they keep on going there, and no one wants to take that responsibility and to champion this all the way through for the benefit of the organization. So that coming together and working together for the benefit of the organization needs to be done in a more concerted manner, especially in the enterprise.
Thank you very much. That was Krishna Rajagopal of AKATI Consulting, a security-focused consulting firm specializing in information security. We'll be back with more business news after this. BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to BFM.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.